welcome to the relaunch event of the National Cybersecurity Index of the eGovernance Academy. My name is Merle Maigre. I am the Program Director of the Cybersecurity at the eGovernance Academy, and it is a true pleasure of mine to welcome various speakers here today from Estonia, Chile, Czech Republic, Norway, Luxembourg, and the United States, as well as also to welcome our listeners and followers in the eGovernance Academy channels in LinkedIn, in Facebook, and YouTube. We all know that the decision about where you want to go must start by recognizing where you are. A regular assessment of the state of cybersecurity and resilience that is based on a reliable data is really useful for policymakers, industry, and regular users. The National Cybersecurity Index of the eGovernance Academy is doing exactly that by systematically measuring cybersecurity maturity assessments of various governments. This index of ours captures the experience that the eGovernance Academy has had over numerous various cybersecurity projects over the last 10 years and more. With this, it is true pleasure to give the word to Hannes Astok, Executive Director of the eGovernance Academy. Please.
Dear cybersecurity experts, policymakers, and decision makers, welcome to the National Cybersecurity Index 3.0 launching event. Digital transformation has shaped our world for several decades. We all understand that it comes with certain risks, but managing both online and offline risks is the key to make the digitalization a success story. So to make the most of these digital changes, countries must be smart about using technologies and keeping it safe. That's where cybersecurity comes in. Being well prepared for cyber threats is the best option for protecting a country's critical infrastructure and services. But how well prepared is your country against cyber threats? Is it enough? What can you and your experts on cybersecurity do better? The National Cybersecurity Index has the answers. Almost 8 years ago, eGovernance Academy and its cybersecurity program head, Raul Rikk, initiated the National Cybersecurity Index with the support of the Estonian Development Corporation. Since then, our dedicated team has worked hard to make the index more than just a rating list of countries. We have created indicators to measure the real performance of countries. Well done, Merle Maigre, Epp Maaten, Kadri Kaska, Marit Lani, Radu Serrano, Hauke Schulz, and many, many others. Today marks a significant milestone as the EGA NCSI team is presenting the updated National Cybersecurity Index methodology. It remains the most comprehensive tool for measuring countries' cyber resilience and developing necessary capacities. We thank our supporters, the Estonian MFA and most recently SDEV, for making this possible. Now, as we move forward, I hand over the virtual stage to the cybersecurity experts who will present index updates and how you and your country can benefit from them. Let's build trust and cyber-resilient societies together. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Hannes. And now, here, I thank with Hannes's words for SDEV, and it is truly makes me glad to pass the word to Andres Ääremaa, Program Manager for Digital Transformation at the Estonian Center for International Development. Please.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Estonian Center for International Development, I am delighted to welcome you to the relaunch event of the National Cybersecurity Index. This event marks a significant milestone in our collective efforts to strengthen cyber resilience worldwide. The NCSI 3.0, the latest iteration of this groundbreaking tool, represents a culmination of extensive research and collaboration among leading cybersecurity experts. It offers a comprehensive and up-to-date framework for evaluation of national cyber capabilities, providing valuable insights into the strengths and areas for improvement of countries' cyber defense postures. As a proud donor of the NCSI initiative, we recognize the transformative potential of this tool in empowering nations to navigate the ever-evolving cybersecurity landscape. The NCSI 3.0's clear and transparent methodology and ability to identify critical indicators of cyber resilience and track progress over time is very, very valuable for informed decision-making and strategic planning. We hereby acknowledge the e-Governance Academy and its partners for their dedication to developing and maintaining the NCSI, which has resulted in its third version already. Their commitment to fostering global cybersecurity collaboration is truly commendable. The NCSI has proven to be an indispensable resource for policymakers, cybersecurity professionals, and the broader public. Its ability to foster transparency, accountability, and knowledge sharing across borders has also proven itself as an excellent tool for planning and implementing international development collaboration projects. As we begin a new chapter in NCSI 3.0, we are confident that it will continue to serve as a powerful catalyst for increasing cybersecurity readiness worldwide. We encourage all stakeholders to actively engage with this NCSI, using its expertise to strengthen the nation's cyber defenses and contribute to a more resilient global cyberspace. I wish you meaningful discussions today and a fruitful day. Thank you for your attention.
Well, thank you very much, Andres, for these words and for coming here today. On my end, I will sum up this introductory part by saying a few words about the operational info and then also telling you what is there to expect from our discussion today. So regarding the operational info, we are using the virtual platform WorksUp for our online event. On WorksUp, you can follow the stream, check the program, and ask questions from the speakers. We very much encourage you to do that. Please access the event at worksup.com by clicking on the top right corner, join the event, and enter the event ID, that is NCSI 3. To ask the questions, click on the Q&A button in the program and type up your question. We will follow all the questions and try to answer all of them during the live discussion that is to follow here today. If not, your question will be answered to you via email. The most important questions will also be added to the NCSI webpage, Frequently Asked Questions section. Now, why is it worth to stay with us for the rest 3 hours? What can you wait for? Right after our introductory remarks, there will be colleagues of mine, Radu Serrano and Ep Martin, giving you a more general introduction and context about what is the NCSI and what is the international context for that. After that, we have a really exciting panel discussion. The first panel focuses on indicators that make a difference. That will look more closely at some of the key indicators that are updated in the NCSI 3.0 version. We will be looking more specifically at issues of foreign policy in cybersecurity, cyber diplomacy, but also education, operational cybersecurity, and military system. Then after that, there will be another panel session focusing on the user cases. Piret Pernik from the NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence will moderate a discussion on how countries benefit from the NCSI with specific speakers and experts discussing how NCSI has served them in Chile, in the Czech Republic, in Luxembourg, and also in Norway. So with that, stay with us. The first more detailed presentation will be given now by Radu Serrano, the project team leader for the NCSI and cybersecurity expert at the Governance Academy. And Radu will provide you an overview of the NCSI, its evolutions, changes to the latest version, and improvements to the web page.
Thank you, Merle, for the presentation. I was recently thinking, basically, of the movie Terminator. Everybody remembers the artificial intelligence and all the robots and all the stuff, but nobody actually recalls that there was a cyber threat that started everything. It was a cyber attack. And that put me thinking there are two main topics or things to take out from this. Number one is that cyber threats are always evolving. And number two is that cybersecurity is a joint endeavor. I could mention other examples from popular culture, but we are not here to basically go through them. The reason we are here is because we consciously or unconsciously know the two previously statements are true, and we want to learn and keep continuous learning the best practices that exist in our world so that we may be prepared for cyber attacks, cyber threats, and we are cyber secure at all possible times. With that in mind, I'm going to present the updated NCSI 3.0, and I hope it will be valuable for all of you. We will go through the results of the previous methodology, the new updated methodology, and we will finish with a demonstration of the website. The previous methodology was launched in 2018. It was updated in 2019, but in the sense that the descriptions of the indicators were updated, nothing big changed in the methodology, and it was finally archived in September of this year. The main takeaways is that basically it had 46 indicators which were grouped in 12 capacities, and in turn these were grouped into 3 categories. And at the end of all these years of effort by the NCSI team, we basically had this illustration of how many countries we had in the index and how it all resulted among the cooperation of all these countries. Basically, the statistics were that during all these years, we received 784 data sets for 177 UN member states and territories. And we, by we I mean the NCSI team, we were not alone. We had 104 country contributors from 90 countries that updated their country's information regularly and kept it so that the NCSI would become a valuable and viable tool for national cybersecurity. And this is some of the examples of all the institutions, both governmental and private, that help us reach these numbers throughout the years. For that, we thank you for your cooperation and your assistance in making the NCSI a tool that we could all use. The updated methodology stems from the same ideals of the previous one, and it's still designed from the analysis of the fundamental cyber threats. That means the denial of e-services, the data integrity breaches, data confidentiality breaches, and other cyber threats. To manage all of these, a country must have the appropriate capacities for strategic, preventive, and responsive cybersecurity capacities. Taking this into consideration and the new existing best practices among the world, the new methodology has now 49 indicators, similarly grouped into 12 capacities and 3 categories. Overall, you can visit the website to see more information and more details about each of the indicators, but going a bit into more detail, the first category would be strategic cybersecurity, and the ones that have the similar sign on the left are the ones that indicators that are similar to the previous ones or to some of the previous ones in the previous index. The ones with check marks on the right are the ones that are completely new. So as you can see, for strategic cybersecurity, we have included cyber diplomacy engagement, commitment to international law in cyberspace, cybersecurity competencies in primary education and in secondary education. We previously had them grouped together, now they're separate, and cybersecurity research and development programs for the national level. The second category includes preventive cybersecurity. Similarly here, we have 2 indicators that are similar to what we had in the previous index. But for this one, we included new ones, including cybersecurity requirements for cloud services, supply chain cybersecurity, and cybersecurity awareness raising coordination. The last category is responsive cybersecurity. With this, the similar ones include the ratification or ascension to the Convention of Cybercrime investigation capacity, digital forensics, and 24/7 contact point for international cybercrime. However, the new ones include having a cyber incident reporting tool, procedural law provisions, and military cyber doctrine. This doesn't mean that the rest of the indicators have remained the same. No. Those that have not been specifically marked in these examples have suffered changes in the criteria or in the accepted evidence. That means that some of them, in most of the cases, have become a bit more stricter in the sense of what kind of evidence we can accept or we can allow for a specific indicator. Regarding the ones that are similar to the previous, they have also been tweaked to respond to the new necessities of the best practices. And the new ones similarly have been all detailed in the methodology in the website. So this and more information about all the specific indicators, we kindly refer you to our website. We will do a live demonstration of the website basically in a couple of minutes. But for those that like something more textual, we have a booklet explaining all of this in the methodology section of our website. And even in the NCSI, all this information about the indicators will be available every time you visit the country page. So I will now pass on to the website, and we will do a small presentation about what we can see or visit on our NCSI website. So to visit it, you just have to go to ncsi.ega.ee. And the first thing that appears to us is basically the Mappamundi, which at the moment contains 20 countries which have been updated with the new methodology. After which, if you scroll down a bit, you will have the section that includes the news, where we post regularly which countries have been updated, what has been the new changes in the index, events, or new publications. And if you continue scrolling down a bit more, you get an explanatory video about how the NCSI will be able to give you assistance or help you in boosting national cybersecurity. Now, the most important changes to the website have been two new tabs at the top. We have the new tab that is the Frequently Asked Questions, or FAQ, and the NCSI 2016-2023. We will first go to the Frequently Asked Questions. This will become a compendium of all the questions that we are being asked by email, that are coming from academia and public and private sources that have shown interest in knowing about the internal dealings of the NCSI, or how to find that specific number, or what was the ranking for a specific country and a specific date. We will try to explain it all here. If it's not explained here, you're always welcome to contact us via email, and we will be able to answer you as well through there. Then we will go to the other tab, which is the NCSI 2016-2023. Here is where we have archived all past information. So the previous index, we archived it, but all the data has not been lost. You can go back and review it and see your country's ranking before the update of this methodology. As you will see here at the top, you will always have a banner that will state that this is archived data, so you will not confuse it with the current index. In this case, the ranking remains as it was archived in the 1st of September of this year. You can still click on any of the countries and scroll up and down to see their index at that time. And when you click on one of these archived countries, you will see again, it has the banner on top that the data is archived, and this is archived data from 2016 to 2023. Nothing was lost. Basically, you can also go back to the previous versions that you can choose a version and see specifically how it or a specific country evolved throughout the years. And the same with comparison. One of the new niftier tricks that is available for both the archived data and the new data is that when you go to the ranking timeline, you can now hover your mouse over the points and see exactly where specific dates when the country's score had changed, either increased or decreased. And that might allow researchers or people who are interested to see how and when specifically the country's index changed. But this is all the old data. We're going back to the initial page, and again, you are able to see at the moment 20 countries because that's how we have started. We will continue updating the countries in the upcoming weeks and months, and we want to achieve the same level of and the same number of countries and territories that we had prior to archiving the data, which was 177. For that, we will continue doing our work. We will also invite you to assist us with this endeavor and collaborate with us and send us the information of your country, or send in corrections if you find that some of the information that we might have found seems to be incorrect. Again, so now let's go to a country page. The layout is still the same. A few items have been changed, and we will now go through them. The first big item, let's say, that has been changed is the IDI, which was stopped by their publishers a couple of years back, in 2018, if I remember correctly, has now been replaced by the e-Government Development Index. And we've also updated the Global Cybersecurity Index, the e-Government Development Index, and the Network Readiness Index to the most updated values that they have had. The Network Readiness Index, if you might not have known, was recently updated, I believe, in an event last week. So this is fresh and information. Then we have the NCSI fulfillment percentages, which basically has the new capacities in order. It's a summary of what you can see if you scroll down later on the website of this page. And it gives you an overview of, in terms of completion rate, of how the country is doing for any of the specific capacities. You can also see then the NCSI development timeline and the ranking timeline, where you will see how the country's ranking has been changing throughout the time. Given that we've just input this information in the index yesterday, there's not much change, but again, the same capabilities exist in the format that you can click on or hover your mouse over one of the dots and see specifically the date when the ranking changed and the completion rate at that specific point. And then we get on to the information about when the country page was last updated, in this case, 29th of November 2023, yesterday, and the data source. Usually there are 3 data sources. Public data collection means that it was our internal team or a team of interns that has always helped us to collect information. Government officials means that it was a country contributor, volunteer from a specific agency from that country that has been assigned to give us a hand with this. And the third one is cooperation partners, I apologize. Cooperation partners, which means that is a third-party institution that has no ties to the government, but they have been kind enough to give us a hand. Then we go on to the more important information, which is the different indicators. As the countries become updated, you will be able to choose different versions to see what has improved from a country to another, or what has been improving in the same country throughout the years. And then you can always click on the different categories and capacities and indicators themselves to see the information. It will all be revealed for you. So for example, I expanded the indicator number 1.1, high-level cybersecurity leadership. In all the country pages, you will have the same capabilities to expand to see what the criteria is, what the accepted reference means, and what we accept or not accept. And if it has points, it means there is evidence for it. And this will be published next to it, and you will always be able to see what evidence we refer to when we give out the points. The same with all the different indicators. We've added additional macros. One of those is, for example, this one. Some cases, the evidence is provided in a foreign language that's not English. We mark it down so that the visitor of the website knows that that website will either have to be translated by Google Translate, or there is another way that you might have to try to understand the information. Another macro that we have presented, and it will be available, is geo-locked information, because there are some times in which websites are specifically locked for a specific region or time zone, and those can be accessed only in those specific regions or time zones. And it's all expandable. You can always visit it. And we will always try to keep this data up to date with the help of the country contributors and our own team. At the end, you can see 2 options. If you want to become a data contributor, you can click on the link and then input your information. We will receive your information and then contact you. And if you saw that something was not all right, or there was a small mistake or something that, let's say, a law was recently amended, and you wish to send us that information, you always can do it by sending us, clicking on the update a specific indicator with evidence data choice, and send us this information to us. We will obviously review it, and if it is accepted, it will be published. And another capability is that all of this can be downloaded to PDF here at the top with the PDF option. And the comparing capability is also live. This allows us and any visitor of the website to compare the different countries between themselves and see how they are specifically doing. So let's say we take Estonia and we add another country right here. Its neighbor, Latvia. And this is a bit more technical, but basically the most important thing here to remember is that because we had a change in the methodology, this blue space here represents that change in methodology. So the graph will show you how the ranking has changed of the countries throughout the years. However, and this refers also to the archived data. However, we were not able to separate the ranking, and we preferred for people to see how the ranking has fluctuated throughout the years. So instead, in order to mark this update of methodology, in the ranking timeline graph, the vertical blue square is the marker that indicates the months between September and now November that were used to update the index. Other than that, the capability still remains there, that you can see how the countries can be compared, allowing you to see, let's say, for example, where one country has no points and the other one has points. For example, Latvia has a national cybersecurity strategy. Estonia does not have one at the moment. They are working on it, as far as I know. The National Cybersecurity Strategy Action Plan, similarly, Estonia is working on it, but Latvia has not. And this being a live index, that means that the moment that the Estonian cybersecurity strategy is in place and the action plan also is in place, that information will reach us and we will immediately update this information in the website. And this is all about the website. It still remains the same form. We still have the old sections, which are the methodology section, which we explain everything about the new methodology and how it has been updated. At the bottom of it, as mentioned previously, we have the booklet if you wish to download it and study it in a bit more comprehensive manner, or if you need it for academia purposes and you need to cite something, we highly recommend the booklet. Also explain the data collection procedure for those that become data contributors and they don't just want to be a one-time only data when they send us something to correct. You're able to contact us and what the process in the back end will be and how you will be given access to become a data contributor and what's the website. And also we have the description of the indicators, which is basically also information taken from the booklet, but on the website, if you wish to know more about each specific indicator and the information in the index itself is not enough. Here we've added a new section in which basically we explain what is being measured for each indicator, what is the importance, and what evidence we accept or not. The Services tab takes us back to the EGA website to explain more about the other services that EGA provides. About Us is all about our team, and you're welcome to contact us if you have any questions and comments. And pretty much Index presents all the countries. You can arrange it by ranking, by country, alphabetically or not, by the National Cybersecurity Index value, the digital development value, or the difference between themselves. The digital development value is the average of the e-governance development index and the network readiness indexes together. And the difference is another metric that we have created, and it was in place before. But again, for those that do not know, the difference measures the difference between the e-governance development and the national cybersecurity development. Values in blue means that the national cybersecurity development outpaces the digital development of the country. Values in red means the opposite is true. Basically, development of national cybersecurity should go hand in hand with digital development of the country. It can be better, but it definitely should not be on the contrary, worse or less than the digital development of the country. So this is basically the demo of the website. Again, we thank all country contributors. We exhort all of them to continue collaborating with us so that we can make this new methodology and the new NCSI very accessible, very transparent, and comprehensive tool as it was when we finally had 177 countries and territories. And we hope you visit it and use it to boost your country's national cybersecurity. Or if you want to do research, we highly recommend it because it's a good database from where you can start your research point. Thank you for your time, and I believe we might be taking some questions right now.
Radu, well, thank you very much. Thank you very much for walking us through in much detail through the new index. We have had a couple of questions in the workshop, as well as I am curious about a couple of ideas myself. So first, I was wondering, I mean, currently there are not very many countries up there. How did you choose these particular countries that you have updated right now?
Well, since this was a new methodology and everything had to be, let's say, started from scratch, we first reached out to our country contributors, our database of country contributors, and we asked them to help us, given that we are relaunching the index and everything was going to be brand new. And most of the countries that we see right now in the index are those whose countries contributors helped us by sending information. Given that this project also is of Estonian origin, and we received a lot of help throughout the years, Estonia also obviously that we also included Estonia in this index.
Very good. It's good to see, of course, Estonia there, but I noticed there aren't many EU countries, for example. When do you expect to add more EU NATO members to the index? And more generally, when do you expect to update the index in a more meaningful way to have a more richer sort of selection of countries there?
So being a live index, we are constantly doing it, and it's our priority to keep it running constantly. I mean, since it basically started in 2018, we haven't stopped only these last 2 months to update it. But to answer your question, in the upcoming weeks and months, obviously with a break for Christmas and New Year, but we will continue updating it as they come. If we get collaborations from those EU countries or NATO countries themselves, they can also speed things up and give us a boost in that.
So with this, there is a kind of a call to all country contributors who want to volunteer to provide you with more information.
Definitely.
There are a few questions in the workshop, and thank you very much for that. So a specific question, which I will read out to you. How can I find out the data contributor of a specific country?
So data contributors, if there are any, at the bottom of the country's page, they are usually mentioned. In the archive data, they are mentioned, and that has been saved because it's archived data. In the new countries, similarly, at the end of a specific country's page, when you scroll down, if there is a country contributor, it will mention the name of the person and or institution that has helped us with that. It must be reflected, though, this is not a database of contacts, and it should only be taken as data contribution. The person who helped us with the information doesn't mean that that person is a specific contact for cybersecurity in the country.
Thank you very much. And there is one last question now. If I'm a CCB implementer in some partner country and I see that some data regarding a specific partner country is not correct. For instance, the cert is created by law, but in reality has ceased to exist many years ago. Can I let you know about my findings?
Yes, that's actually why we have different ways of contacting us. You can either contact us via the form at the bottom of a country-specific page, which I showed before in the model, or you could go to the contact page and write to us to our individual emails or to the general ncsi@ega.ee email. We are also quite frequently users of most social media, and EGA also has social media accounts. So if you want to, I mean, it's not cyber secure anyway, but you can also try to contact that way as well.
Excellent. Well, Radu, thank you very much. I think one of the key takeaways is that the work is not finished, but you and your team keep on updating countries in the coming months. And we wish you good luck with all the hard work in that.
Thank you.
That being said, we will now move on to our next speaker. Epp Marten is a good colleague and an ESA Cybersecurity Index Working Group member, as well as the senior cybersecurity expert at the Governance Academy. Epp will walk you through taking stock of the developing of the EU Cybersecurity Index.
Dear listeners, I'm here today to talk about another index, not about the National Cybersecurity Index, but about European Union Cybersecurity Index. And of course, the first question is why another index? There are several indexes about cybersecurity already existing. And why does European Union really need another one? So I will talk shortly about this journey that has happened in the last 3 years in European Union. Because the basic question in European Union is the same, that we do know there are several recent legal acts, normative acts, regulations concerning cybersecurity. And the member states of European Union should follow these regulations and laws. But how to measure? Are countries doing good? Are the member states really effective in implementing these regulations or not? This is the basic question of European Union currently, and that's why this index appeared. But before elaborating further why exactly this index is needed, I really would like to focus on that before starting this index development, a lot of discussions were dedicated to the question how really do this index and the future gathering of data in a manner that it's not an extra burden for the member states. Because already, as I mentioned, there are indexes available, and the European Union member states are part of these indexes as well, and they need to deliver data there as well. So it's like a new task for the member states. That's why this how question is important. And it's good to recognize that in this discussion, it was really thought through how to gather the data about member states based on existing data already, like Eurostat or Eurobarometer data, or existing research data could be used also in this new cybersecurity index. Of course, there are some indicators also in this future European Union index that member states should still deliver their data or input, but the aim is to use different sources for this new EU index. But yes, why this new index? So some slides now about this topic. Indexes, to measure the country better, we need both qualitative and quantitative data. So this new index should be a mix of both kind of data. And again, here, the source of the data it depends, but member states are, let's say, able to collect this new kind of qualitative data as well as quantitative. When we take the regulations of European Union in recent years, then there are new acts adopted which really regulate what the countries should do. And ENISA, European Union Cybersecurity Agency, has also got additional tasks to assess this, let's say, progress in the countries. So this index is also needed because of new tasks of this European Cybersecurity Agency. And ENISA is also obliged to gather and develop a cybersecurity report and also report the status of cybersecurity in European Union to the Parliament. So that's another reason why there is a need of additional data, and this need cannot be really covered with existing indexes, what we already have about cybersecurity. So the most recent regulation or directive, Network and Information Security Directive from the last year, really says clearly that ENISA has new tasks, these reporting tasks, and also there is a need to come up with recommendations to the member states from ENISA part to help countries then to find gaps and also to implement new and suitable measures to improve the status of the cybersecurity in their country. So, but back to this European Union project about creating the index. So where are we now? So this project started 2021. And the first stage was really dedicated to the research, that what are the existing indexes, what are the indicators in existing indexes. So also the mapping of existing regulative requirements was really made. Also the all possible data sources were researched, how to find easily existing data and not ask the member states once more. So a lot of work has been already done. And so also to make this work closer to the member states or get timely feedback, ENISA created a working group of cybersecurity experts. So, and this expert group has been really working regularly and having meetings. And now there is a stage of testing of this new index, because more or less the questionnaire, the indicators, they are already developed. And now the member states in last year have been trying to answer these questions or find the data to really measure the country based on this new methodology. So this is called like the pilot stage at the moment. And also ENISA has put a lot of effort on developing the visualizations, because in the end nobody has today time to read 100 pages report, but if there are nice pictures or nice graphs, we would rather prefer them. So this visualization part is also very important in the new index. Now coming closer to this content of the index or to the indicators, the first conclusion of the last 3 years is that it's changing. What is quite sure already that there are 4 main areas of indicators. These areas are policy, capacity, market, industry, and operations. And they do have subtopics, and then every subtopics has a number of indicators. So in the beginning, there were like 58, but I have a slide here that after pilots with the member states in 2023, the number of indicators has changed, and I think it will keep changing because there are new regulations adopted by European Union, like this NIS2 directive, for example, which means there are new requirements to the member states, which should be considered as part of the new index as well. So it shows already that developing an index is not a one-time job. It's a process planned for a longer time already, we know. And the status of the index is that this year, now the pilot with member states is getting to an end. So it should be more or less ready, the methodology of the new index, and it should be published and really made official next year. So this is the conclusive picture about the status of this ENISA new cybersecurity index project. As I said, in the end of this year, it will be closed. The pilot stage will be closed, and then it will be published and finalized. And the last part of this is also dedicated to the visualizations about the data gathered from the member states. So, and just a few words about the future directions that have been discussed during this development, that European Union needs indexes that are used for multiple years, that it's not one-time effort, that this visualization part will be also developed further. And also European Union has done already several nice visualizations, but this index should be also, let's say, harmonized with the existing visualizations to improve all sides. And that's basically where we are. So we are hoping to get the new index next year published, and it's a good study material and also a lot of work for member states in future. Thank you for listening.
Well, thank you very much for offering us this little bit wider context to the overall development of various indexes. And our workshop hasn't come up with any questions to you, but I was wondering to ask myself, why do you think we need cybersecurity indexes in general? Because one could say that ultimately these things are arbitrary and sometimes perhaps not entirely 100% sort of like still information is hard to get and update. Yet there seems to be this trend towards more and more indexes. EU is doing one. There's the Global Cybersecurity Index of the ITU, the eGovernance Academy, and there are many others, of course.
Well, I think there are two sides. One side, I think it's a good tool to manage, or like European Union, as I said, they have a lot of regulations concerning cybersecurity, Now they want to make sure that these regulations or directives are implemented. So through this index, they see as a tool, you can measure where the countries are. But on the other hand, being also like a practitioner in a member state, I would say also the public authorities in member states need this kind of tool very much, because if you are responsible for policy making in cybersecurity area, you need to know that what are other countries doing. And and the European Union index, I think it's a bit like next level to the National Cybersecurity Index, that it has more elements, or they are more like European Union centered focused elements. So for European Union member states, it should be useful.
Very good. Well, thank you very much. Thank you for coming here and sharing this experience from your background with us. And now we will break for 5 minutes, but don't go away. We will set up a panel of the first panel discussion about the most relevant and important indicators with a set of various cybersecurity experts. Thank you. Well, welcome back, everybody. In cybersecurity, it is certain and known for all that in order to keep to stand, you have to keep on running. So similarly, for the cybersecurity index, in order for this to remain relevant, we have to regularly update the methodology, as Radu has explained to you and as Ep explained to you regarding the context. So today it is extreme pleasure of mine to welcome here a solid panel of various experts to discuss some of the most relevant indicators that have been updated in the current NCSI 3.0. We have Tanel Sepp, the Estonian cybersecurity ambassador. We have Birgi Lorenz, the senior scientist for TalTech. We have Joosep Johanson, the cybersecurity expert from CERT Estonia. And last but not least, Commander Jake Galbraith, the head of strategy branch from the NATO Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence. Welcome. As said, we have in the current NCSI 3.0, the work and the launch of today wraps up work that we've done over the past 2 years. Starting this discussion with you, Tanel, first, and touching upon something that is new in our indicators, and that is the cyber diplomacy dimension. It wasn't there before. This is building on the aspect that national cyber resilience is not purely a domestic matter, but is growingly also requires cooperation among states, among regions, and even international level cooperation. Tanel, can you tell us a little bit about the importance and relevance of cyber diplomacy engagements from national perspective?
Well, thank you, Merle, for first for inviting me to this discussion. As for your question, I would like to reply to that by kind of overall notion that every country in the world is digitalizing right now. I mean, we in Estonia, we are lucky enough to have been in forefront already for years, but now you can see really every single country is doing its bit. And with the digitalization, what always has to come along is the cybersecurity part. We see so many cyber attacks against developing countries also now. So it is a matter to everybody. So cybersecurity really needs to be enabled there. But for me as a kind of cyber diplomat, what is really important is that we all should strive for more stability in cyberspace. And that's why I think it's so relevant and important that the index also includes the cyber diplomacy part now. And what does the stability mean? It really means taking floor and voicing out your own statements on international law and how that applies. It is about cooperating on creating accountability in cyberspace, because in the end, and it is so relevant for Estonia right now that if we cannot ensure stability in cyberspace, that will threaten our lifestyle here, because our level of digitalization is simply so high.
Sure. So how do you see the trends of countries spelling out in more detail how they see how international law applies in cyberspace from their national perspective? How many countries are there who have done that, and where is the trend going?
And not enough. At the same time, I mean, I go to New York 3 times a year to open-ended working group meetings. That's the only global forum we have for these kind of questions. And there I can actually see as a positive trend that more and more countries are taking floor and really saying out what they think. And at the same time, we are also encouraging a lot of countries. So our development cooperation, our efforts also go in this direction, really to help them to bring together different entities, different ministries, to think through different topics in cyberspace, and also to connect this with their own internal politics.
When you say you are encouraging developing countries to come together, and some of the efforts we at the eGovernance Academy have had privilege of joining you in organizing the Cyber Diplomacy Summer School in Tallinn, but what are some of the first steps for countries to take on that path? I mean, is it that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs should set up cyber diplomats, cyber ambassadors position? Is that something that one should consider? Is it a unit, or is that not necessary? What is the role of ministries of foreign affairs in all of this effort?
I think that the initial role is really to translate the aspects or the developments in the tech world, to translate these into foreign policy language, because especially what we see right now in Ukraine, for example, there has been a brutal kinetic war that has been accompanied with a cyber war. So in a way, there is no difference if you are aggressor in kinetic or cyber world. It's the same. So creating these links between the policies and or what's happening on the ground and what's happening in cyberspace, and really expressing what's happening in cyberspace in a language that is understandable in political terms.
Thanks for that. I very much agree, and I think that underlines the need to include some basic cyber security and cyber diplomacy training amongst the diplomats, overall training, in order to be able to have that talent pool in the public sector who can transfer tech developments into the language of cyber diplomacy and foreign security policy relevant for the country and government, right?
Exactly. For me, when I'm looking for new people in my team to join my team, then I'm not looking for techies from whom I can kind of develop diplomats. Vice versa, I'm looking for diplomats who are, let's say, geeky or nerdy enough to be interested in cyber topics. What I really need is the diplomatic skill in discussing cyber matters, not vice versa.
Good point. Good point. Thanks for that. Turning to you, Virgi, I mean, in Estonia, you are known as the person who has done a lot to push for cybersecurity education and digital literacy and educational curriculum. So as we updated these types of indicators in our National Cybersecurity Index, expanding the best practice or the recommendation, so to say, to have cybersecurity education already in early ages, we couldn't think of a better person to have comment these things than you. So why would you say it is important for a country to have a systematic approach to cybersecurity education?
Mm-hmm. Example, if your country needs 200 cybersecurity experts, so you need to know where they're coming from, and you have to start raising them now. So you're basically looking 12 years, so where we will get them. So we want to get them from university, then how many people we are needing in the university that you can have the talent pool. So example, 200 working in the field. So in a university, maybe you need 60 people, maybe you have 100 master students. From out of that, maybe some of them will join your country or somebody else's country. So, but where these 60 or 100 people comes from, they need to come from somewhere. So you need to have a good cybersecurity bachelor level. So again, where they are coming from. So you are looking what is happening in high school level. So in Estonia, we have decided that to grow this kind of talent pool, we need to go from the first grade, start with them. And we have written some small parts in the curriculum where the child gets the education around them. How my home is secure, how my school is secure, how my e-learning is secure. And from the secondary school, they are already looking what is going on in their society, what is going on in local authority to protect the school environment. So from that, we get this kind of interest to the cybersecurity. So this is very curricular stuff. But of course, when you need talents, you need these 200, then you have to think even more. What is the extracurricular things? So in Estonia, basically, we have 9,000 students every year from 1st to 6th grade taking cybersecurity tests. We have half of the school in Estonia are doing this test with the children. And when we are going to 7th or 9th grade, there is 4,000 students who are like young hackers. They don't know stuff, but they have done something. And we have to gather them to give them this good path that they are not going to hack their e-school or something, or do some other bad things in social media. So we gather these students and then we work with the teachers. And of course, after that, then you will get these students to come to in your bachelor level courses and things. So we have to look always 200 people. We need a lot of people before that to gather. So I think because, as you mentioned, Estonia is in information society and we are very so dependent, I think all of the children need this kind of education and everybody could be a cyber talent because we need a lot of people, a lot of faces, like you see in my costume today. So there are women, there are men, there are elder people, there are young people. We need everyone. And maybe we can learn from 10 years old student more, that sometimes we can learn from them more.
Oh, yeah, important stuff. So starting that raises lots of various questions, and I would call our listeners who are interested in perhaps anything more specific to write up questions in the workshop. We will ask your questions. While we wait for that, Birgi, I was wondering, so when you start talking about kids, and I like your point of the necessity to have both curriculum, cybersecurity present in the school curriculum, but also the extracurricular activities. Starting from a primary age already, how easy or difficult is it to have professors or teachers in school introducing these topics to children? Are you focusing on that, and how's your cooperation with various schools going in there? Where do you find teachers who can explain these things to kids at early age?
Estonian education and this curriculum is built with teachers. So this is very special in the world, that the curriculum is made by teachers for the teachers, and the teachers community decided that it is an important topic, and therefore the teachers are behind that cybersecurity curriculum as well. So this ordinary commoners level, this is quite okay because we have educational technologists who are preaching that cybersecurity is important and everybody should teach when something happens and how we can solve it. But when it comes to talent, there is a little struggle that not if the teacher doesn't have experience of this cyber competition or how to run these kind of things, then they are like reluctant to join. But we have made it so fun. We are helping sometimes. We are asking the student teams to bring the teacher on board to show them what you are doing. And now we have 150 schools who are doing these competitions. So we have 550 schools in Estonia. So 1/3 is already on board, and we have teachers who understand cybersecurity and really want to come and work in the field. So we are a little bit afraid that these 200 people comes from the teachers, because they already know how to work with people, and then they are just learning their new profession.
And when you say we, who is the we?
We have in TalTech, we have a good community, but we are working also with Tartu University and Tallinn University. So it's a joint effort, but also we are working with NGOs who are working with the teachers. So it's a community who has decided. And we have a nice Facebook group. Everybody can just join, and everybody tries to make Estonia a better place. So we are not saying that if you are working in this field that you have to can do that. We are saying everybody has to do it, and everybody can discuss these things with us. So it's a community movement.
Thank you. Thank you. I have many questions because I think teaching and kids is something many of us can relate to. But I want to give a chance for all of us to speak. And Joosep, it's very good to have you here from the Estonian CERT. So I admit the requirement to have this solid cyber incident response capacities and capabilities, something not new in our index, but something that is always been there, because let's face it, without the capacity to have cyber incident response, one cannot really talk seriously about cybersecurity. But sometimes I think it's important also to repeat the evident and explain the elementary. So can you please perhaps tell us why is it relevant for countries to be prepared and to respond to cyber threats? And why is it important to have a special CERT designated with nationwide responsibilities for cyber incident detection and responses?
Well, Merle, thank you very much for the invite. And it is true, we have to keep reminding people that there are threats, especially when things start becoming good. When you actually reach a certain point, people become complacent. And that is why we have to always keep it in mind. For a country to have a good incident response system, it's important because let's face it, there are going to come attacks. There are always attacks going on, and this is something that I feel does not get enough messaging. Even right now, there are attempts at attacks, and all the work we've done up until this point is actually preventing a lot of attacks. That cannot be understated. Now, for emerging attacks, as it has been said before, we are innovating always in this field. There are always new solutions. There are always more ways to actually do things. And that's the same, because the more things you introduce to something, the more possible places to attack that become available. For example, I really like the analogy for us blue teams, the defenders, we have to check the entire fence around our house. It can't have a single hole. But for the attackers, they only have to find that single hole and they're inside our fence. So it is not easy. And for Estonia, we have reached a certain standard that I would say is quite up there in the world. So now it actually becomes a bit more difficult for us to find new ways to actually push it further. And for one thing, we are sharing our learned expertise very much, but something really important now has become sharing. And if I may open the thought, it's in European level, we have a very good sharing because the NIS directive actually orders us to have this national CERT. And let me bring an analogy to explain it. For example, if you have a puzzle and you give each person one piece of the puzzle, and then you ask, what's the puzzle about? It's I think you might get very creative answers, but most likely they are wrong. So for a national CERT, the idea is that they will get all the pieces of the puzzle and they actually see the big picture. And the big picture is, for example, gives us the example what we need in our country right now. What are the main threats we have to address? And this is the main role.
Right. Well, I agree with you, and I understand that also it's about having a strong team and a strong national CERT team, but it's also about the CERT keeping up the community, a trust-based ecosystem, because well, you are looking and reviewing the network, but there's also the requirement of the critical information infrastructure operators to notify you about incidents happening. How do you make that happen? Is it easy? Is it sufficient if you have adopt a law? Do you need to introduce fines? Is it sort of like a whip or carrot approach? And how do you approach that?
That is a very good question, because let's say you can't create trust with a law, and trust is what people need to actually share with you. So not only us, but other European member states, I know trust building is a very involved thing. For us, for example, we actually have 4 main events that we always do every year for different communities. And that's where we actually get to, see the people we are working with, actually see that, yeah, it's not just a faceless government or a faceless entity that we are dealing with. There are actual people behind it. And it's an ongoing effort. It's, I think it cannot be understated. And we also have it mapped as one of our main priorities. And sorry, what was the other part of the question?
No, well, well, there is, yes. Well, I understand you answered my question of the whip and carrot approach with the underlining the need to build trust. The whip part, I guess, is a law and introducing of fines. What are the carrots?
Well, that's let's say that the carrot in this case is you actually get something for reporting, because as I talked about the Basel example, we have a pretty good situation overview. We get a lot of information from our partners, and we have a duty to actually share it. But if we actually get input from the critical sector, from the involved victims, one thing is we know what to share to them as well. Because let's say if you have an incident, you may have a good IT security team, you may have the experience, but working for the company, their, how to say, the horizons aren't maybe as broad as us who deal with a lot more varied incidents in this, right? So for example, if you turn to us with an incident, we can give an outsider perspective and also give further, not just help solve the incident, but we might see something that you might miss.
Awesome. I think that you underline a really important point here, that when there is a requirement to notify the national CERT with incidents, it is a two-way street. And I'm really glad to see the CERT Estonia emphasizing that it's not just information going from the critical information infrastructure operators to the government side, but also there's a way to give back, to share some wider trends, reporting and information, intelligence information on cyber that you can give back to the sector. So it's a give and take approach. Really useful. Maybe like short final question in this like in intro remarks for yours. How easy is it to get experts into the CERT Estonia? What do you offer? How do you get the talent? Because like for Estonian cyberspace to be secure, we need the top people to be among your colleagues. How do you attract them?
That is a very difficult question. In part, we actually grow them ourselves. We have the monitoring team that we actually search actively for young people who are mastering the degree or just looking to get their foot in the door. For example, I started from the monitoring team as well 5 years ago. And but that's maybe a band-aid to a wider problem, because of course we want to have people come from outside with a wider field of experiences rather than just grow them up themselves. You might have a good expert, but broader experience is very valuable. And it's certainly not easy, especially for governments who have the language barrier as well. For private sector, it can be a bit easier. But in that sense, our parent company, Information System Authority, is also doing some events and driving up some public interest in the cyber too. So hopefully we'll get there, and all the more experts will pop up.
Yes.
Will pop up every year.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Josep. Turning to you, Commander. Military is a field more and more, in cyber defense more generally, more and more people who observe news about Russia's warfare in Ukraine are focusing, because we have all learned over the past nearly 2 years that cyber is not a separate part, but very often is part of a conflict, as demonstrated by Russia's attacks against Ukraine in cyberspace. So thereby we have this military sphere and added up indicators as part of our national cybersecurity index in the military sphere. So why do you think is it significant to develop military cyber entities, that is, designated units responsible for the cybersecurity of military operations or cyber operations?
Well, thank you for having me. The key thing we've learned from the Russia-Ukraine war, as an example, and there's been plenty of other examples prior to, is you can't just throw people at the problem and expect results quickly. This is a profession. It's a very complex environment, cyberspace in general. Sometimes you may do more harm than good, and we'll share a lot of the same words for CSIRTs. So you need to train a professional cadre to know how to understand the problem set, how to work with other entities, other governments, other cyber teams. So when there is a crisis and there's a lack of capacity, when you do call in the military, you have professionals that are responding. It may take time for them to resolve the issues if they can, but you at least have people that aren't going to do more harm than good overall.
Good. What do you think, based on your experience, what are the trends amongst NATO allies and partners regarding cyber defense exercises among the military?
It's becoming fantastic. It seems that every week we have another cyber exercise somewhere in the world, somewhere amongst the allies or the nations, and not just NATO, but our partners and other like-minded nations around the world. It is definitely an upward trend. One of the bigger issues we see isn't so much that everybody has their own cyber exercise, it's building those transnational relationships. Not only do you have to train your own countrymen and your own government resources and agencies to work together, but as we're seeing from a capacity perspective and from a talent pool perspective, we rely on each other as well. Cyberspace is global. So we have to rely on our allies, our partners, industry. Key factor here is working with our industry partners, not so much in a authority perspective, but understanding that they can report and let us know what's going on, and also that we can actually assist them at some point in time when we get the authority to do so.
What are some of the exercises that you are involved with in the NATO CCDC? You say there's something going on every week. Can you bring us some examples of useful exercises from your own experience?
Sure. Just right now, we Cyber Coalition, Cyber Flag. We have our own exercise, Cross Swords, coming up here shortly. But around the world, the Brazilians, we have a lot of stuff going on in the US and the Far East and amongst NATO itself at the national level and across NATO. So lots of things to do. There's a bit more focus on the technical aspect. We're still, as was stated by the other colleagues here, it's a growing and expanding area. So you have to constantly keep up to date on the technology and the skill set, but also how we do cyberspace, how government gives us authorities, how government tasks us, and how we interact with our industry partners is key as well. So you can't just throw people in an environment and expect them to understand how to work together. It's based on humans, it's based on relationships. So if those aren't there prior to, it doesn't actually necessarily help if I have a technician that understands how to do something if they don't understand how to interact with whoever we ask them to interact with.
So I understand that just like in the ministries of foreign affairs, also it is among more and more militaries that cyber defense is something where people are focusing, where special cyber commands are being set up, cyber commanders, designated units, but moreover than just national capabilities in this field, it's important for countries to work together. So to learn to train together, exchange information, and there's a lot of that going on at the NATO Cyber Center of Excellence, but even beyond that, regionally as well. Very well. Well, let me check if we have come up any questions from the audience. And while we give people more chance to ask questions, I would like to ask you, like all, a more general question. I mean, we have come here to discuss the relaunch of the cybersecurity index in Estonia. Why do you think some countries do better in cybersecurity than others?
I would start by saying that we are a product of our experiences growing up, and for some countries, unfortunately, they may have a bit belligerent neighbor or maybe a bit more difficult history. So that shapes the perspective. It lets the threat of something happening materialize better. For example, we've had attacks and we have constant probing, and that has given us a mentality that we need to deal with it. It is something that's always on the mind.
Right. So for Estonia, it's the serendipity of being in the geographically and geopolitically located where we are. We've always had our threat perception very sharp, and we have had that tested up relatively early down the line.
Kind of in the same way. I think those countries that are not paying so much attention to cybersecurity right now, I mean, the hard truth is that they have not been hit bad enough. Because in the end, building up cybersecurity capacity or different institutions and internal cooperation, that's a political question. Because cybersecurity does not come cheap. So you need this political buy-in, and to get the political buy-in, you need some kind of input there.
You bring in money, which is important. I think an important dimension. And when I asked you, Josep, earlier about how to get talent, I think wages and decent salaries are part of the secret also of getting people to join the national cert. But increasing that level of the money talk, how much do you think the budget of the IT development should be allocated to cybersecurity in a country, and how important is it, or what are some of the ways of increasing that percentage at the national level? Any good thoughts here or ideas?
Maybe I can open for public sector. We usually bring out that the 10% of the IT budget is usually something you should strive to aim for, because, well, to open it up a bit more, maybe from the private sector perspective as well, it's you have to evaluate what you get for the budget spent, especially if you have a business process. You cannot, if you aren't doing the business of cybersecurity, then you want your main revenue stream to actually generate revenue, and then you invest it in cybersecurity to actually keep the revenue stream secure. So it's always a tough question, like where is the sweet spot where you get enough security, but you other things you have to actually do to not suffer from it.
I would absolutely agree. And within the Estonian government, there have been different talks about kind of setting this kind of governmental goal, but I think that the answer is also has a more complex kind of background, and the more complex background is to do with a public-private partnership, and how do we look at the big tech, how much do we insist on security by design, or some experts are also advocating for security by default.
So if anybody can share some good practices of working with the private sector and bringing them in more. Birgi, for example, you mentioned earlier the importance of extracurricular, and I've seen lately in Estonia some quite innovative cyber security games for younger children. Is that something that you think is a trend to continue, or are there other ways you could recommend in seeing cooperation with the private sector?
Yes, this kind of tools, what we have been developing, like a card games and things. It is nice to put your logo in there, and all of the children will get this information, but also your partners. You were talking about where you get your good people, but your organization has a very good reputation amongst youth, because you are coming with the youth to work with them, make training camps with them, and who they will turn after where they are thinking of what kind of occupation to take. It is the names I know. Microsoft is known by everybody. Everybody wants to work in a Microsoft. This is the same. In cybersecurity, it is most important what is your reputation, but also how you approach people and what to do with them. And I think among women, your organization in cybersecurity has a very good reputation, because they see it is a place where I can flourish. And later on, you are going to different places and changing the world. For me, it's like a Skype, where you have a lot of other programs and a lot of companies are rising up. So this is the same. I'm seeing a lot of women working later on in very good places after they have been part of your organization in 5 years. So cherish that as well.
Absolutely. It's. I remember when I started, there was a kind of big, gender difference. But so we did think, like, why is it so? Is tech so intimidating from the outside? And well, in some cases it did appear so. So yes, we actually put some effort into it. And it's one thing, of course, is to find the so-called advertise the field, because sometimes just there are some very obscure fields, and it seems so very difficult and hard to learn from outside. But it's not always so. But of course, from the more technical perspective, the private-public cooperation can take the form of, even in government, we use the tools and software that is developed by outside usually. And the government, I understand, can be a pretty good customer in some cases not so good. But generally, we do give a lot of input to cybersecurity tools especially.
Very good, and that reminds me this need to explain and advertise the field. Yet another sphere where I think the Estonian CERT, and more generally the RIA, is doing a very good job in raising awareness of cybersecurity, doing public threat assessments, regularly publishing, and thereby raising the overall awareness. But also the general cybersecurity literacy of people, explaining what's been going on in cyberspace, explaining some of the big incidents, and thereby making sure that people know that things happen, and explain it in a way that everybody can understand. We are nearing close to the end of this panel. Any sort of like last thoughts or takeaways regarding these specific fields or the need of various indicators, which ultimately is about where should governments who want to get better in their cybersecurity focus?
And borrow the analogy of Joseph of the puzzle. I think the it's also like a puzzle, actually. That it's a really good tool for any country to see where they are lacking their capabilities or policies. It isn't about ranking in the end. It is about really seeing what is still missing.
I'd like to add that the one thing I do enjoy about having an index, and these will adjust over time as we get more and more fidelity, is it at least gives decision makers, non-cyber experts, somewhere to start asking the questions of why are we this score or not. It doesn't necessarily matter what the score is. It gives them a framework to start asking for the questions and at least start asking maybe partner nations or friends or allies who may be doing better, how and why are you doing better and what could we do different? So if nothing else, it gives senior decision makers and non-cyber experts something to start with.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Tanel, Birgi, Josep, Jake. Thanks very much for joining me in this session today, discussing the indicators. It's been a true pleasure sharing thoughts with you. And for those listening us, don't go away. We will break for 5 minutes for a change of scenery and regather here to hear more about specific user cases for National Cybersecurity Index from across the world. Thank you very much.
Welcome back to the last panel. My name is Piret Pernik. I'm researcher at the strategy branch of Cooperative Cyber Defense Center of Excellence here in Tallinn. And it's my great pleasure to moderate this exciting panel with our star speakers from 4 countries. So now we have the opportunity to actually hear from countries' experiences with the index and share also some of the recommendations, hopefully, how to develop it further. And personally, I was very impressed by the presentation, especially the user interface. And I do have a little background with the index itself, as I was involved with the development of it, the first version, as well as did review of Eastern Partnership countries. So it is one index among many others. Last time I calculated, I think it was between a dozen and 20 different types of maturity models and indexes. And it has its strengths and also some limitations. So of course, the strengths have been already mentioned by the previous speakers, such as it's verifiable, it offers evidence to the various legal acts, documents, websites. Also, it is very good for comparison in terms of network readiness index, etc. Also, the scope is very large. It's global, 177 countries. It's a good repository for anyone interested in cyber issues. And it allows also to compare with your neighbors. Some of the limitations maybe also have to do with the impressive kind of quantitative data, which is then that gives less room for example, peer assessment and also some maybe qualitative aspects. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our 4 speakers, and so we'll give floor to each of them for the initial remarks, and then we come back to the discussion. And I also would like to ask audience to start giving putting in the app the questions to the speakers, and also maybe some comments. So we will take that in the second part of the panel. And so we have 4 countries, as I mentioned. From Chile, we have Senator Kenneth Buk. He's a member of Senate and also a chair of Defense Committee. And prior to being elected, I think you see him smiling there. He had a long distinguished career in the Navy, achieving a rank of Vice Admiral. Second, we have Jakub Madaranek, and he serves as International Relations Officer at National Cyber and Information Security Agency in Czech Republic. And then two brilliant colleagues of mine, Dr. Claire Kwon. She's a researcher and also a co-chair of CyCon conference, and has also a number of years in cyber policy as advisory roles, as well as contributed to the NIS directive, the first version. And last but not least, Erik Kursetkerde, who also has a rich background in private sector, in government, and in academia. So first, I would like to go to Chile, and floor is yours, Kenneth.
Thank you very much, Pirette. It's a pleasure to be using the cyberspace. I live at Valparaiso, that's in the South Pacific, and my constituency goes from Rapa Nui, Easter Island, where the Moais are, to the Andes. That's a huge region, a maritime region, the same distance that is from Madrid to Moscow. So it's huge. But we are a tiny little country. But we are a tiny little country connected with fiber optic cables. When I joined the Congress, the Parliament, as a senator in 2018, as a former naval officer, I spent 37 years in service. And in my background as an electronic engineer, I tried to promote cybersecurity because we didn't have any regulation, no law, no culture, nothing. So I started asking my colleagues, my partners, in order to create first a law to promote cybersecurity culture. And it took the European examples. October, the European Cybersecurity Month. And we created our law. It's the first one I have in 2018. But to measure, I start looking for indexes. And I found in 2018 a wonderful platform. NCSI, the National Cybersecurity Index, in those days had only tested few countries. There were a few of them. So that's why our ranking was very high, because there were no many to measure. But I found an excellent interface. The design of the web page, when you are from another place and you're trying to get information, was very precise, very sharp, to understand all the different areas, the 12 sectors, to go down to the 46 indicators there were. It really opened our eyes in order to decide to have a public policy based on data, based on evidence, not in guts, as we say in politics sometimes, where you need to have some reference. So we start analyzing it and seeing how we can achieve and use it. The first thing we noticed was the breach that we have as a digital developed country. The digital index of the country is a good measurement to say, okay, if I have so much digital development, why I don't have enough cybersecurity based on this index? So that was the first experience. It was used as an internal benchmark, because Chile is a country where fiber optic, as I told, is used all around the country. Ookla, the company that has speed test, measures every second all around the world millions of connections. Ookla has, using speed test, has found for many times that the broadband fixed internet in Chile, it was the second fastest in the world after Singapore. Now we are the third fastest in the world. 88% of the population is connected to the internet. So we have a huge amount of people. We do everything. The pandemics force us to do it even faster. But we didn't have cybersecurity. And that was clear in the index. We had the first measurement in 2018 showing us that we were very developed digitally, but we didn't have cybersecurity. So it helped me in my colleagues for them to understand something they were not seeing. And that's very easy because for a politician, when you see a breach, you say, okay, well, we have a problem here. It's not a problem of technical on the firewalls or on the links you're pressing that you don't have. It's much more than that. And that's a difficult part of cybersecurity. It covers so many aspects that you need to have it. Chile then understood this and used the cybersecurity index as a short-term planning purpose. We need to achieve in these areas. We don't have nothing, and we need to report it. And that's very important because public policy should be measured by an action, a website, or an organization that you have. We also check other systems like Oxford Maturity Model, which we use it for the long term. In 2019, the year after, we created a group in the Senate to have a 12-year vision. 12 years because we have the every 4 years election. So every 4 years we have new government, at least 3 continuous governments. And with a political vision, we use a CMM, the Cyber Capacity Maturity Model. And as every maturity model, it doesn't give you an index. So it's not really an index. It's just a way that you can design your strategy to say, okay, if there are 5 levels, to arrive to level 5, the dynamic one in the Oxford Maturity Model, it's very difficult. It's very expensive, and most probably you will not get it. So our strategy is very simple. In 12th year, we have to be above level 4. So we have to have real capabilities, but we're going to try to be as dynamic as possible. But then it's easy when you have to find, this is for military planners, final desired state. You have to define where you would like to be in 12 more years. For them, a maturity model is good for long-term planning. For the new version, 3.0, we are really happy because in the strategic area, there are 2 new things that are really important for us. First one is the leadership, political leadership. And I believe that this is a political issue. Cyberspace is not only a domain, it's where all humanity now is living because our digital life is there and there's no way we can split it. The phygital, the physical and the digital world is part of how we do. It's not future, it's present. So we need to understand that all our relationship, the culture, the politics, democracy, should be preserved in the cyberspace. And when I say preserve human rights in the cyberspace. So that's important part to understand why we need to measure and why we need to know where we are. That's my first part, and I'm very happy to be here in the panel. Thank you very much, Peter.
Thank you very much, Kenneth, and I have to congratulate you for keeping exactly in time, 7 minutes. And I really appreciate what you brought out, that the index is useful for short term, while you use perhaps other tools for long term, and also your point about the buy-in of the political leadership, and which is definitely very important. And with that, I would like to give floor now to Jakub. Please, the floor is yours.
No, I hope you can hear me. Thank you, Pert, for your words. Yeah, I will follow with basically what Kenneth said as well, because what I found quite, let's say, spectacular even about NCSC is how user-friendly it is. I would call it like beauty in simplicity, yet complexity. Before I will kind of dive a bit deeper into case of Czech Republic and how we perceive the NCSC, I wanted to react on just really shortly on what Commander Galbraith said the panel before, because he said that if nothing else, index gives policymakers kind of overview of and like better understanding for those who are not engaged with cybersecurity on a daily basis. And I think that's one of the most important thing I also wanted to kind of underline and maybe to point out in our case, because for us, the NCSC really, as it's stated on the website, it's a tool. It's a tool for assessment and for capacity building itself. Luckily enough, we are completely in a different position compared, for example, to Chile, as what has been Senator Kenneth saying a minute ago. Because back then, when you went with 2.0 version, we were created. I mean, we as a NUKIP, as an agency I come from, as a central cybersecurity agency responsible for, let's say, we are the main administrative body when it comes to ensuring cybersecurity in the Czech Republic. So we have already like second version of our cybersecurity strategy accompanied by action plan, and we are now in our third version as well. And I must say that we are kind of like go hand in hand with the updates in NCSC, because it's interesting if you look at the data stated in an index to Czech Republic, and you go year by year, and you also check the our regulation and the changes within the methodology of the index itself. We kind of I don't understand how, but we comprehend each other and we go with the flow. So it's fine to see that we do a great job in this sense. And but back to the main point, that it's cybersecurity assessment. And why was I saying that we already had some strategy, etc.? Is that even though you might think that you are already quite doing well, which basically according to index we do, which we are grateful for, it doesn't mean there are no gaps actually that needs to be filled. That's when the NCSI really helped us a lot when we, for example, need to look at what steps to take to move forward and which gaps needs to be filled. Plus, and that's maybe not every one of you are using it in this way or perceive it this way, but it's really important for us it helps you kind of explain the importance, explain the gaps in very way and very understandable way for those who are responsible for decision making. I think, and it's my personal belief as well, it's because it's evidence based comparing to other indexes. What I found really good is that it's evidence based and the evidences are pretty much clear, and there is no much going around. So for those who do not have much of time, they really can get into it and understand clearly, easily, and then make decisions. But make decisions upon information they received, and the information is evidence based. What I want that would be for example, when we going around strategies and policies. Then capacity building. We try to move forward as everyone does in cybersecurity. It's necessary to go as fast as possible, and we won't be able to do it as fast as cybersecurity does, or cybersecurity field improve or evolve. But we need to also build our capacities, but not just ours, but also as NUKIP, we kind of in, let's say, recent years or recent period, we do engage in international capacity building. So even in this sense, it helps us a lot to understand the needs of others and to actually kind of react in a more efficient way, not just to fill the needs of others, but also to kind of understand what capacity we need to provide. So it really makes it easier. Let's say just that. I see my time is coming to an end. So for just 1 minute, I wanted to point out just one, let's say, kind of I wouldn't say bad things, but it might be that, for example, in our case, we found out that some part of index were not filled by, for example, our approach to cybersecurity. It differs because as it is evidence-based, sometimes it's fine to hard to the level of context you can understand by doing quantitative research and quantitative indexes. It's not to discourage this approach because it's quite unique. It gives you different perspective, but it would be nice to see if there is maybe in the future some improvement in this regard. Thank you, Brett. I think that's I got like 2 seconds more, so I'll finish there.
Thank you so much, Jakub. And I really loved what you said, beauty in simplicity and complexity. So, and also it's good to hear that the index is up to date and you see it goes hand in hand with your national developments. And I think we can go during the discussion more deeper into the what are some perhaps recommendations or regarding, you mentioned the qualitative aspects. So I will not ask this question from you now, but just give floor to Dr. Claire Kwon and listening with very attentively. Well, because as I just want to say that you didn't insert data by yourself, but it was done like secondhand data. So what is your impression? It's interesting to hear compared to Kenneth and Jakub.
Thank you, Piret, and thank you for giving me the floor, and thank you for inviting me today. Just as a reminder, I am the Senior National Representative of Luxembourg at the CCD-COE. Luxembourg has had quite a long tradition in cybersecurity, so we already had our first cybersecurity strategy in 2011, and that actually predates some of the indexes that we've been talking about. At the moment, Luxembourg actively participates in 3 indices, and when I say active participation, I mean that we as a country, we fill out the questionnaires, so we just don't let these organisations do their desk research. We try to help them along by filling out the questionnaires that we're sent. So we take part in the ITU GCI, so that's the Global Cybersecurity Index of the International Telecoms Union. We also take part in this ENISA-led EU Cybersecurity Index. And finally, we also take part in the NATO Cyber Defence Pledge. And of these 3, as a country and as a good ally and member state, we're obliged to take part in the Cyber Defence Pledge questionnaire, as well as the ENISA-led questions. And we actively take part in ITU because this is something that is publicly available. So the last edition of the GCI was published in 2021, that was version 4. And Luxembourg scored joint 13th place with Germany, something that we're very happy to see. It shows that we're on a par with our peers and our neighbours. It also helps us promote brand Luxembourg. Luxembourg has a reputation for being a safe place to invest. And given that financial services are a core part of our economy, it does us a big favour to be able to show investors that we take cybersecurity seriously as a government and as a country, so people know that their investments will be safe. We just finished our questionnaire input for the next version of the GCI, version 5, which will be out next year. We have noticed that the methodology has become more rigorous, which we really recommend, because before it was more of a box-ticking exercise, and now you have to provide proof. And that increases our confidence in the findings of the ranking. However, having said that, we have to provide proof that's publicly available, that we can share. And of course, cybersecurity is a sensitive area, if not classified, and so sometimes we can't share. And that means that we don't receive credit for the work that we're doing, even though that work is good. For the NCSE, what Luxembourg thinks about this is that a massive advantage of the NCSI is the fact that it's in real time. We don't have to wait for a questionnaire that takes us several months to fill out, and then the requesting organisation takes a few more months to evaluate and to publish a report. And when that report is published, perhaps it's already 18 months a year out of date. And so if we have a new development in Luxembourg, that means that we can send it directly to the EGA and they will update it and we can get our results in more real time. And as Jakob also said, we find it a simple and effective modelling for cybersecurity capacity building. It's extremely user-friendly, it's very clear. That makes it very easy for governments to see what's in it for them, and also very easy to respond because they're very clear in the questions they ask. And we also have noticed that they've introduced criteria that we've not seen in other indexes before, such as high-level cybersecurity leadership and inclusion of military cyber defence. And we know that cybersecurity, digitalisation, this is a very holistic subject, so the introduction of new areas will give us new targets, give countries new targets to aim for and broaden their concept of cybersecurity. If we're going to be picky, Luxembourg would like to see an index or a criteria for lifelong learning, because we know that cybersecurity is constantly evolving, the threat is always changing. It's a whole of society approach, really. That's what we really need. And lifelong learning is a very good indicator or a good goal for this, because it's not just teaching children and young people, it's also teaching those older who did not grow up as digital natives how to keep themselves safe online and how to contribute to collective security. From what I've seen, Luxembourg, from their desk research carried out by the EGA, scores 43rd in the NCSI compared to 13th in the ITU. And our neighbour and peer, Germany, is actually number 5. Now, there's probably very good reasons for differences for this, and I had a look at how we both score comparatively. And there's just something I'd like to add on behalf of a small country. We have 600,000 people. We do not offer undergraduate bachelor degrees because our citizens are multilingual, they go abroad to study, and they come back to Luxembourg where we offer high quality postgraduate programs because that's added value that we can have as a small country. And one of the criteria is, do you have an undergraduate bachelor program in cybersecurity? Which the answer is no. I have read that they do count vocational training, and we do have a very good 2-year full-time program in cybersecurity, the Brevet Technicien Supérieur, which counts for 120 ECTS. So that's 2/3 of what a bachelor would be. I hope this would count. Luxembourg at the moment is filling out the questionnaire so we can better help the EGA see what we do. But for vocational training, the name can mean anything from hours, days, weeks, months. And so we do hope that this counts, and just recognise that as a country of 600,000 people versus Germany, which has over 84 million inhabitants, it's difficult for us to find the economy of scale to have such programs, especially when there are such good programs very close to us. So thank you, Pirette.
Yes, I totally agree, and it also underlines what was said before, that perhaps, we need more like qualitative data as well to just accompany those other indexes. So thank you very much for that, and going in depth regarding the education and explaining, differences, country-specific conditions. Now, last but not least, Eric, the floor is yours.
First of all, thanks for having me. I'm the Norwegian representative to the CCDCOE. And Norway is among the most digitalized countries in the world. And even though we are extremely densely populated, we have an internet penetration rate of over 99%. For example, I come from a village with 300 people, and we have had fiber optics for around 10 years already. And we also got 5G 2 years ago. At the same time, we have an extremely high level of the usage of digital access and digital public services, where around 88% of our population are using these services already. But we see that the digitalization of society not only gives possibilities, but also obliges the government to take responsibility to protect its citizens. So cybersecurity has therefore been an important priority for the Norwegian government. My colleague Claire mentioned the Luxembourg cybersecurity strategy from 2011. And I'm actually really proud to say that the first national strategy for Norway was already launched in 2003. We're one of the first one in the world who launched that type of national strategy in this area. So to keep up with the developments, we did a revision in 2007, 2012, and 2019. So we've been quite active in regards to the strategy development of cybersecurity policy. When it comes to the National Cybersecurity Index, in our opinion, we see that, as all other panel participants, that it offers valuable insights for benchmarking and comparing national cybersecurity readiness and how it aids in regards to identifying strengths and weaknesses. And I think also one under-communicated part is that when you're trying to have an overview over different types of countries, and you're struggling to find if they have legal acts in place, it's sort of like an encyclopedia, where you actually just can run up a country and you can see if there is an available law or strategy, which makes it a very efficient tool for especially researchers, but also countries in preparation for bilaterals and other things. So we see that the participation in the general benchmarking, it fosters global collaboration and it encourages information sharing, which we believe is really important because it contributes to establishing the best practices on an international scale. But however, we see that the development of extensive indexes do have a really big challenge in regards to how you're doing the operationalization. And we think that the varying level, especially also on willingness and capacity among countries to contribute in these type of indexes, create an issue for accuracy and relevance. And we see that to address this, there is a need to explore strategies where you're fostering active participation and data sharing. And we see that the fact that countries who have to deal with several surveys with slightly different questions, that is one of the key issues. Because when you have small institutional capacity and you need to handle maybe 10 or 12 different surveys with slightly different questions, we see that there becomes a capacity issue and a lot of countries don't actively participate. And we see that one possibility for making more countries participate in the different indexes is to simplify the amount of work and resources that are needed at the national level by coordinating the acquisition of data and how we are producing the statistics in this area. And then the different countries could actually develop standardized packages of information that would align with international recognized cybersecurity benchmarks, such as different ISOs, for example, so you can ensure a consistent and harmonized approach to data reporting across countries. And by doing this, you would also manage to facilitate a more straightforward and efficient data collection process and enable a more accurate and meaningful comparison of cybersecurity preparedness on the global stage. When it comes to Norway's experience with indexes, we must be honest to say that we haven't been particularly active, not in the ITU GCSI or the NCSI. And we have been considering especially how these indexes can fit the diversity, in both technological, economic, and cultural contexts, where we're seeing that, as my colleague from Czech Republic also mentioned, that the one-size-fits-all approach is demanding when you're trying to capture different nuances of each country's unique strengths and challenges. And I have also some concrete examples from Norway's score from the previous NCSI. For example, you will see during the indicator 1.1, when it comes to the cybersecurity policy unit, Norway scores 0, which does not reflect Norway's governmental structure and coordination for cybersecurity, upon which you have a clear responsibility in the Ministry of Justice and Public Security, where you have actually also a designated unit for security and resilience. Another example is factor number 5 on protection of digital services, where Norway also scores 0 on all of the indicators, which may seem partly inaccurate as we already have quite big legislation in place. For example, we have the Electronic Communications Act for entities who are involved in electronic communication, which encompasses both physical and logical security, where we are addressing cybersecurity concerns. And we also have something called the Security Act, which also is designed explicitly for entities deemed critical for national security, where you also, a ministry has the authority to extend the application of this law within their sector of responsibility. So we believe that we have some of the frameworks that are being measured in the indexes in place, but we believe that they are not being reflected in the score for Norway in this index. I must be precise also to say that I haven't seen the new scoring for Norway for the new in regards to the new index, but still these are some main concerns from us. On another page, we see that as mentioned, we do not actively contribute in the NCSI or in the ITUs, but we believe that in general that in regards to make sure that countries with low institutional capacity are able to contribute more actively to make sure that the data is more accurate. We need, as I mentioned before in my intervention, we need to make sure that we have a standardization of information packages, which could pave way for a broader engagement. And we also see that as we continue to explore these challenges and opportunities, we need to more work collectively in discussing these type of indexes. And therefore, we are very grateful for the invitation here today, and we're looking forward to keep contributing more in regards to how we can make more people engage in these indexes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. I totally agree with what you said, and also thank you for pointing out that there is a room for streamlining the data collection, and maybe also, again, coming back to what was said already, to have some qualitative roundtables and so on to verify those aspects. So I know that the time is running short, and we have about 5 minutes to discussion. We didn't have any audience questions, but because many of you, I think almost most of you,
I can ask a question when you are ready.
Yes, I have plenty of questions. But I think many of you mentioned capacity building, and I would like to connect various indexes to capacity building. And for example, World Bank uses the cybersecurity maturity model in engaging with their customers. Also, we know that it's a good kind of self-assessment tool, but at the same time, if we look at the various initiatives, we can see that there are so many actors. I bring example of Ghana, where at the moment we have a global cybersecurity capacity building conference, and in that country there are 42 capacity building projects with 16 actors, and many of those are in the same sectors, which are very important sectors like cybercrime, cyber diplomacy, and crisis management. But is there a way that we can better use those tools and connect them better with the various capacity building projects? And of course, I don't know, maybe it's a too broad conclusion, but it seems to me that perhaps those countries who are more keen to have capacity building projects also are more keen to put their limited resources into those indexes, because these are the reference tools for the donors, whereas some other countries may be less inclined to do so. But I don't want to ignore, we have a very cozy atmosphere here, to our virtual participants. So first, let's go to the same order. Kenneth, would you please share your impressions and experiences and advice with us?
Well, my advice will be in research, development, and innovation. We should innovate. We have to solve problems, and for that we have to create ecosystem. Innovation in defense is very good because you have both ways, dual-use technology for civilian and military world. And with innovation, you can have everybody involved, and we can find all the connections that we need. Good thing is that version 3.0 takes in account precisely this item. And with what? Like, for instance, doctorate and postdoc system. We need to investigate more, and we need to invest in people. But we have to understand this is a complete and complex ecosystem where everybody should be involved. So innovation is a way. CMM in Oxford, they have the new 3.4 aspect that covers this, but it's much more than that. And what is missing is to have a broad view in gender breach. There's a big gender breach in women. I'm very happy to have Claire. I really agree with her in the way how to build this long-term vision. But we need more women in cybersecurity. In Chile, it's less than 15%, and we cannot find. So have more women, and of course, to create a very vibrant, innovating space in cybersecurity, which will allow us to be very dynamic. That's it.
Thank you. I noted it down, innovation and gender aspects. Thank you for that. Jakub, would you jump in?
Yes, gladly. Thank you, Peter. To answer your question, whether we are somehow able to connect dots between different indexes and our capacity building efforts and projects, I would answer yes and no, because it all depends on whether we are keen to share information with each other. And then we got indexes, which are basically, and it has been already said, it's a tool for sharing information. Then my question would be, but should we use them for those efforts? Yes, indeed, please do so, because it helps you how to share info, how to spend your finances more efficient. Just that would be it.
Thank you. And now I think we have just about 1 minute, so if very briefly, Claire.
Yes, I would just like to say that Luxembourg, along with Estonia and Germany, actually founded a project called EU CyberNet, where they get people who work in a development cooperation and cyber capacity building to sit together and try and streamline their projects, perhaps either collaborate on projects or give one country the lead on a project to try and reduce the duplication in cyber capacity building when it comes to our development assistance. And then when it comes to the indices, I think it really depends very much what a country wants to get out of it. If you want to see how mature you are now, perhaps the CMM is a better choice. But if you want to do some signaling about, like Luxembourg does, about our reputation as a place of high cyber development and capacity, perhaps the ITU one is better. So I think a country really needs to decide what they want to get out of it. Is it for external or is it internal for reference and benchmarking? Thank you.
That's very useful. Thank you. And Eric, do you have anything to add?
Actually, when it comes to the information sharing and the willingness, I was involved in the CMM project before, some years ago, and we had very close dialogue with the ITU index as well. So there is possibility to use, as long as there's willingness to share, there is a possibility to have a closer cooperation around, especially against countries where they are struggling with institutional capacity and you need to use the data you already have. So as I mentioned before, I believe that we need to look more into the standardization part, because in that way it can actually be realistic to get the information you need.
Thank you very much. And with that, we conclude our panel. And I would like to ask everybody to stay for the wrap-up. Don't leave yet. Thank you.
Well, dear listeners, dear followers, I think as a wrap-up, what is left to say is to underline the point that if you want to keep on investing and developing your cybersecurity capacities, indexes do matter. If not for the rating, then at least for the mapping of understanding where you are, where are others, and what matters in cybersecurity. The National Cybersecurity Index of the Governance Academy, at least until the ENISA has put out its EU-level cybersecurity index so far, is the most comprehensive cybersecurity index available. We would be grateful and happy if volunteer contributors from capitals who are interested in providing us input about your national cybersecurity would get in touch with us so that we can make our index even better. We at the Governance Academy are thankful for the Estonian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, for the Estonian Center for International Development, for supporting our efforts related to Index and also to all of our speakers from Prague, from Valparaiso, from Luxembourg and Norway, located here in Tallinn these days, from the US and from our Estonian experts. Thank you for making these sessions interactive. Thank you for listening. Stay tuned.